the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap-ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't missing my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues. Guess if you ain't at the table, you on the menu, and I'm that spitter, baby. They don't want you to see, but everybody's south of Capitol Hill's rocking with me. Boys smoke the trays and ponder getting their life together. I'm comfortable with my role, so I'm like, whatever. Me? I ain't got a job, but I work hard. And you don't work hard, but you got a job. The irony is I'm judged while you feel the applause. I'm slept on, that's why I had to set this alarm. My dudes is armed, I'm armed with this arm charm. Body banging like she got that cream from Barry Bonds. Yeah.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
That Dre season is here, a real hitter with a mic, I'm everything that they fear. With that hood ain't the same, I was all on their ass, I'm level-headed. So yo, my dudes love when I spaz, and I'm so over Seattle's passive-aggressive attitude. They don't call you back, what they really saying is F you. While I'm from the same place, I move at a different pace. I prefer if you just said it to my face, damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Average dudes with they average spit, writing average rhymes, knocking average chicks. The closer I get, I can feel the people starting to shift. I'm loyal to a fault, and everybody can't come with. Rap's a rich man's game, I'm only playing with change. They bang models and singers, I'm knocking my own flame, I'm different. The crowd, I move with the chosen few. Black thoughts, I could be the front man for the roots. No diamonds and gold, I'm on my sticks and stones. If we can see your panty line, you should have on a thong. My team is strong, through this fire we forged a bond. And they already know what it is when I get on. To the hearse, party like it's December 31st. When I'm on my deathbed, I probably cracking my nurse. You ain't got the bars to compete, I'm a verbal athlete. Deflating these boys so they say that I cheat. Damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Yeah. I should probably start by apologizing for the long wait, man. You know, I know I be tripping. But I'm not just a rapper, I'm an artist. And, you know, my creative process is a little bit different than most. Nonetheless, I want to welcome everybody out to the Dre's Experience. I got TCF in the building, my whole camp's here with me. I got the band in here laying this cool ass vibe. And I'm Seattle's own. Let's get into it.
I just wanna live. God protect me. I just wanna live. I just wanna live.
Yeah.
Hey there, Grand Rising, and good morning to all you beautiful folks out there. Welcome to the Free Update Show. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday to you out there. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday, and we are continuing our coverage right here on the Hill. Me and my guy, Big O. What up, Big O?
I'm good. I want to say thank you to Impact Lynn, our partners over here. First video, that's set up great today. I want to continue to bring this stuff with us on your radar. We got an overlay over there, Mr. Director. We got a new director today, Curtis Delgado. You might know Curtis Delgado.
Your audio's off. It's way off.
What?
Audio's way off.
Let's give Curtis some support.
Like low or high?
Like, listen to it. Can you hear this? The whole thing is off.
That's better.
Like, is it good?
That's super. It's like not coming out the stream. Like it sounds good through the headphones, but and the signal's coming
It's
in.
totally
but,
dead.
Yeah.
Are you getting it on there?
I can hear
Is
it.
it something in the mixer? No, it's coming through here, so it's something on the stream.
It's down on that.
Because it sounds fine from the stream.
Stream is good. Let me check from YouTube. Let me just go out of this really quick for a minute. Let me have my headphones on.
Yeah.
We've got Jack of all trades, Keith Nasty, Deep Press, with our 11.
People are commenting though saying mic check. That's why it's like audio is too low. So
You got it. It's up. It's up.
Oh, okay, so people can see that. That's the Black Lives Matter mural.
Huh. Okay, because it's coming fine out of the computer. So it's got to be
Bro,
something
I'm
on
hearing
StreamYard.
Yeah, I'm hearing us over here too. Something else is picking up. Like this mic. Are their mics on?
Their mics are on, yeah.
You can take it down now.
Wow.
That's so weird. Yeah.
What's going on?
It's coming fine out of here, but the audio's not coming out of StreamYard.
It's not coming out of StreamYard. Everything's clean going in. We're clean on hardware. We're clean to StreamYard.
Where we go? Are we going to break?
Yeah, go to break.
I'm just gonna go to break.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
Yeah, we are
right.
back.
So
We're
look,
back. You know what I'm saying? It's all
We're
good.
remixing it.
Yeah.
So can someone confirm that you can hear us now?
Everybody can hear us. Everything is okay on the screen.
You guys are hearing us?
Right on. You know, our crew is making sure they make it right for us,
So
man.
hey, let's do this. You guys are hearing us now?
All right.
Can we get everybody over here in the set and over in the comments? Can we give our director, our live director, Curtis Delgado, a hand, please?
Yeah.
Today's his very first day here. And he's flying solo. Alia is not here today, so he got a lot of pressure on him. Let's let him know we support him. Let's do this all again.
Yeah.
Good morning, Trey.
Good morning. Oh, you know what I mean? We no problem with for us. You know, we always ready on the fly anytime.
All right. So a few things, and actually let's make a note before we end the show. Let's mention Niani again.
Yes.
And we'll do that. Do you have the Pine Cam up? Okay, so what we did there is if we got G-Prez out there, we got our 11th in Pine Cam, and amazingly, 12 months later, it looks a little bit different than it did 12 months ago. There's actually a Black Lives Matter mural right there that you're probably seeing on the screen.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
there.
So just wanted to show everybody that. Tomorrow and Friday, we're going to be showing a lot of different parts of the park and, you know, what was and what wasn't and all that good stuff.
Well, you know, I'm glad that it's still up, you know, a whole year later, because so many artists came together to pull that together and work to so hard to ensure that their creativity was expressed. You know what I mean? And when we're out here on the Hill, man, what a better way to showcase what's going on when we talk about a year later than to start with that mural right there. So I love it.
That's right. All right. So back to form. We're a few minutes behind, which is good though, but we don't have any headlines today because we left space for our guests. I want to welcome everybody to the Morning Update Show and remind you that right now is the perfect opportunity for you to tag and share the stream. Go ahead and tag and share the stream with people who you feel could benefit from culturally relevant news and information emanating from right here in the Emerald City. Want to give a big shout out to our partners, the South Seattle Emerald, and also KBCS 91.3 over there at Bellevue College. And we've been talking about the podcast today. We're putting a link in there because 1 year ago in the Citizens of the Chop podcast series, we interviewed Joey Weiser. And Joey's podcast is going in the comments right now. You can go and listen to me and Joey Weiser talking about the protest a year ago. I think that live TV. I think that one of the unique things that Converge did, a lot of people think Converge and they're just like, oh, the guy was live streaming with a red iPhone. Man, during the chop, like we started during the chop. We started a podcast series. Like that's why there's so many people no one else has ever talked to. Like yesterday, we highlighted Liz, who actually held the pink umbrella.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Joey Weiser. We talked to Chase. And so anyways, in the comments right now, you can hear me and Joey Weiser's conversation from almost a year ago. And I can tell you one thing has changed and one thing has not. Me, I got older and fatter, and Joey just keeps getting better looking. So, and if people are wondering, he broke out the vintage jacket. Yeah. So we got Joey Weiser here today. We've also got Marshall Hugh of the Marshall Law Band. You know what I'm saying? In the building. Yeah. I'm seeing all kinds of headlines about these guys. Talking about Pulitzer Prizes and everything else. He's got a little bit of hospitality with him as well. And then we're going to be talking to David Obelts from Malcontent News. Malcontent Tango. Back in the day, we used to call him Pole Man because he'd have the camera up there on the pole. He had the best advantage of the protest. You know what? They put out a documentary. It's about 1 hour and 5 minutes long. It's called Can You Hear Us? And we got the trailer for that, and we'll be talking to David. So two quick things here, and, both open for discussion real quick. We're a few minutes behind. We'll go to break. Yesterday, the city council voted, and they passed Councilmember Morales' legislation now to remove the proviso for $1 million to go to OCR to start the participatory budgeting process.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that, after we had our interviews with them, I saw it coming. OCR was getting prepared for it. They've been working in collaboration with Department of Neighborhoods and OPCD, Office of Planning and Community Development. So all three of those offices and departments of the city have been working together to try to figure out this process. The one thing I'll say is let's make sure it's transparent. There's been a lot of things that have gone on outside of community's view. So many people came together to ensure that money would come into community hands. So let's make sure the rest of the process is transparent with regard to this RFP and who is going to be wielding that $30 million to come into community.
Yeah, I heard from TK yesterday. TK, that was like, man, who's doing this? What beats happening there? Community has to be it's easy when we just point the finger, like government needs to do this and that. But you know what? You got to point that finger back at yourself now. It's time to hold our community accountable. This is a really big week. We'll see what else happens this week, but there's 30 million right there. There's Task Force 30 million, 10 million from HSD is out. There's 70 million now that's coming into play. People are talking about just this week, and we'll see what's up with this other 30 million from the Mercer block.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, TK is so right. Right now, the money is not in community hands just yet. So when we talk about the transparency, it needs to go across the board. The fact that it's still sitting in city hands right now, we're saying, city, we're holding you accountable to be transparent. The moment that it starts hitting community groups, those who put the RFPs in, those who have been saying we got solutions, then it's going to go right to them. She's absolutely correct in that regard. We got to make sure that accountability is held across the board, no matter who has the money. And I'm agreeing with that.
All right. And what's today? Today is the 2nd. So I think it was the 12th or the 18th last year when Mayor Durkin pledged that $100 million for the black folks. It kind of migrated a little bit, BIPOC, then it went to city council and whatever. But I've been blowing them up down there at City Hall. At the mayor's office, Kamaria Hightower. I've been like, what's up with the task force? What's up with the task force? We're going to get the task force some members live here tomorrow to tell us what's going on with their recommendations for that 30 million for community. So yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of information as to who's coming tomorrow or exactly what points they'll be on. But I can say this is we're expected to have some members from the mayor's task force here tomorrow to talk about their recommendations on that $30 million they have.
You know, this is just so important when we talk about really following these stories through. At the end of the day, you know, I gotta say, shout out to everybody who lent their voices to the movement to ensure that the city of Seattle heard y'all loud and clear. This collective voice of we have solutions. People need to be scaled up so that their solutions can be scaled up. Man, I'm excited to get in, you know, to get some information from the task force tomorrow and really hear again. They've been talking to community groups. They've been, you know, holding round tables, so to speak. You know, it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of recommendations they've come up with in the time that they've been, you know, formed. And, you know, hey, how they've been able to plug in with community and ensure that, again, this is a community led process and it's not, and I do repeat, not a gatekeeping process. I'm excited for that.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm a firm believer in government's not coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. So, I mean, it's fine. You know what I'm saying? I reported on the process, but, you know, I mean, man, ain't nobody coming to save us. Looks like we're going to take a quick break right now. Man, when we come back, though, we're joined by Joey Weiser. And, you know, another thing Converge was doing a year ago, like 5 days after the CHOP was cleared, we did our first community voices, and it was about mental health and the mental health impacts of people who had gone through the protests. And not only did we have protesters there, we had residents, we had Robert Flack. Like, it was a crazy, when we think about it now, we had medics, but it was a group of people that only Converge could get together. Like, all these people wouldn't have come together, but we were talking about the impacts of the protests and mental health way back when on July 5th. So we're going to catch up with Joey Weiser, and we're going to talk a little bit about that and also see what he's up to these days.
Absolutely.
All right. Quick break. Coming back. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
I did it for the city. I did it for the love. I did it for the people. I did it for us.
Back on this rap ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
Hey, it's Jake from Converge Media and Get the F Outside. I hope that all of you are taking advantage of the ability to be outdoors and enjoy nature as our summer months heat up. One other thing that you can take advantage of here in the King County area are free COVID-19 vaccinations. There's all kinds of options for pop-up clinics, and the vaccine is able to be administered to anyone 12 years and older. And did I mention that it's free? You don't need insurance, and they don't care what your citizenship status is. And that kind of sounds like the way things should be anyhow, but we'll save that for another conversation. Information and resources are available at kingcounty.gov/COVID, or you can call the COVID-19 call center at 206-477-3977. Washington, we are almost out of this, but we got to stay locked in for the home stretch. Let's get vaxxed out so we can max out our time with friends, family, and in the great outdoors.
Outside.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to the Morning Update Show. I am so glad. I know Big O is glad, man. We got Joey Weiser on set, man.
Hi.
You know what I'm saying?
Thank you for having
Joey,
me, Joe.
welcome.
Thank you. Good to see you guys again.
Absolutely.
Yo, and Joey didn't disappoint. And you know, I still have a lot of my old gear from the protest as well. And I think you can also confirm this. I bet when you put that jacket back on, you still had like pepper spray residue and everything, right? You wash it 5-6 times, don't you know?
I had to get this out of the storage closet and wrinkle it off. And yeah, when I was walking over here, remember it's heat activated.
Yes,
so in the
UV
sun,
activated.
my neck started
Starts
burning up.
Oh.
So did
Well-
that for y'all. Love you guys.
Oh man.
Well, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. You know, it's literally been almost a year. The last time we had you, we were right across the street there at the bunker.
Yep.
When we checked in with you, a few things I wanted to talk about. But the first thing before we talk about what's happened since, you know what I'm saying. The first thing I want to talk to you about is something that's really kind of important to me, was like the mental impacts and the mental tolls. And I think that somebody like me and you, we kind of impacted a little bit differently than other people who were just documenting. Some people just had their camera on us, whatever. And, you know, it was clear you're very much, you know, like your title said, activist and everything else. Mia's out there, you know what I'm saying, as media trying to be as objective as possible, you know, different viewpoints, same, you know, the same thing. But the whole point is, if I didn't talk to so many people, I probably wouldn't be as emotionally impacted. But talking to like hundreds and hundreds of people in interviews, man, you know what I'm saying? It puts like an extra layer on it, as opposed to if I was just sitting there with a camera the whole time.
Well, right, and people want journalists to be objective and unbiased as possible, which I totally get. But meanwhile, we've got police officer unions and guilds endorsing Donald Trump, for example, right? He's an actual fascist dictator. So I struggle with this idea of being completely neutral. One, I don't believe that that's fully possible. But two, you know, I'm out here with a lens and a perspective and a bias, and I just
Well, the point I was getting at is you've never been shy about your perspective.
Right.
That's the thing. No one is coming to watch Joey Weiser stream because they're like, oh, man, this is very objective. And
I sure hope
you know,
not. Yeah,
people-
yeah. Wrong crowd. Wrong crowd.
You know, because people would hit me and they'd be like, man, you're not doing this. And I'd be like, man, go to Joey's stream.
Yeah.
All right, so look, we want to play this clip. This was actually from July 6th of 2020. So imagine this was 5 days after the chop got cleared, and we sat down and we talked about mental health impacts of the protests.
How did that being out there, like, one, because like you intentionally put yourself in danger because you were streaming and you knew like what could happen out there, but still, how did all that impact you?
Yeah, well, that's the big joke, right? Is that white people run towards danger, right, rather than away from it. So I would say I don't think I realized that it was impacting me as much as it was until maybe a week later, because like you said, we were out here every day with, you know, some nights upwards of, you know, 300 plus of those blast balls. And the scary thing is you don't know if it's going to be the tear gas one when it's ignited and it just releases a lot of smoke, or if it's the one that's going to, you know, land on your foot that's going to blow up. And I had both land on me at different times, so you don't know whether to run or to pick it up and toss it back, right? So just having that uncertainty be in our faces, ever present all the time for a sustained period of time, upwards of, what was it, a week and a half, 2 weeks, it definitely took a toll. And one of the ways in which that really revealed itself to me was through my sleep or lack thereof, because what I saw myself having to deal with, even when I would go home after, you know, the crazy nights out here, was, excuse me, I don't mean to use the word crazy. I'm trying to remove ableist language from my everyday. So I would rather say exhilarating or threatening or scary. But anyway, I would go to home and try to go to bed, and I couldn't fall asleep. Or I would get to sleep, and then I would have dreams. I know the first one was about an active shooter situation. It was that night that I was out here. I was interviewing Councilmember Shama Sawant, asking her about, you know, what she thought of the situation, and next thing you know, I'm getting messages and messages and messages about how there was somebody just tried to shoot one of the protesters. That's when that car came barreling in. And so that's actually only maybe one of three, I think, active shooter dreams that I've had. I had one actually last night. And so waking up with night sweats. 4th of July was particularly difficult because everywhere around us, it boom, boom, boom. And for those of you who maybe weren't on the ground, one of the things that we were hearing was that fireworks were used as a deterrent potentially to perhaps distract from a shooting that might be happening somewhere else, right around us. So to make kind of throw us off so we don't know where it actually came from. So I hear fireworks, and I automatically associate it with gunfire, not just because it sounds like gunfire, but because quite literally it was used in tandem to sort of avoid suspicion or what have you. So it's been a really interesting adjustment. I will admit I had a lot of privilege for the last 28 years when it came to 4th of July. I don't have any family that's in the military. I don't know anyone personally that suffers from PTSD that's very vocal with me about it. So as far as I was concerned, it didn't really exist. But this 4th of July was very different, and I now understand.
You know, this is really, really transparent, you know, to be honest, vulnerable of you to put yourself out there like that, Joey. And my question to you is, you know, as you were experiencing these things, and it sounds like really for the first time, you know, so much of this, you know, coming onto you, you know, the mechanisms that you use to get through, what were some of those for you in that time?
I'm really grateful that I had a roommate and I could just shoot the shit with him and get a lot of my anxiety out and talk it out what we've experienced because he was there with me through a lot of what happened, right? So having that dialogue back and forth was really cathartic and therapeutic in that way. But I do want to acknowledge, right, like centering my whiteness is not what I'm trying to do. There are so many people within the Black community that experience this kind of thing for generations, right? So it was a opportunity for perspective sharing. One of my favorite tweets to come out of the protest was nothing will change until we stop seeing or until we start seeing racism as a white problem to solve rather than a black issue to empathize with, right?
Yeah.
So I think I was able to have that empathy, right? And now it's, I mean, not even close, but for a little bit of time. And now it's like, okay, what are we going to do to solve it? Because
Yeah.
this sucks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it took a few months, but you know, the night terrors have stopped. So
That's
but
good.
yeah.
I mean, part of it is, you know, one more thing. I'm just going to toss it over to O, but I think so much of this is exactly what you talk about. When I'm always encouraging people to see themselves as a part of the solution, that's what I'm talking about, right? When it's on white people to say, you know what, I'm going to be addressing these acts of white supremacy, of white privilege, of racism in my own family, in my friend group, in my with my colleagues, because there's a lot that happens outside of black folks' purview.
Right.
And ultimately, that is the ideology that allow those are the opportunities that allow the ideology to persist.
Right.
So I love that you were able to walk away with that. And also, I'm glad to hear that your night terrors are stopped. That's
Thank
serious,
you,
man.
thank you. It's kind of clumsy showing up as a white person in a racial justice movement, right? Because you don't necessarily know where your allyship fits in and how you show up in ways that don't overstep or overpower or shadow. So one of the ways I see my work is just trying to build the platform and then pass the mic, right? Okay, if folks want to speak up, here you go, and there's your opportunity. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be able to reach out to white folks in my community, people who look like me, people who will probably only listen to the cause if it comes from someone like me, right? So that's kind of the way I try to find a role here.
Hey, it's a good lane to be in, Joey,
Yeah.
honestly. And we need more folks like you in that lane. Thank
Appreciate
you
you.
for that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, like uh a few things. I think that yeah. Let me circle back around. First of all, how do you think that I guess you would say live streamers or smaller media companies like people through David into being live. He's got a news platform he's had for years. People just hadn't heard of it before. You know what I'm saying? People hadn't heard of Converge. We actually it's our fifth year. Then we also had people who were live streamers who came out. But how do you think the live streamers and the smaller media impacted the Seattle protest as far as people actually being able to see what's going on and talking to as many voices?
I think that's a great question, right? This last protest season was the first time I'd seen the live streamer really put the viewer at home in the driver's seat where they could interact with folks on the ground, especially during COVID, where so many people are at home looking for something to consume, wanting to get involved in some kind of way. Before, you really didn't see a lot of mainstream news organizations, Como, Cairo King, Q, whatever, doing anything like that in that way. Maybe helicopter chopper live streams or something of a car chase, but you wouldn't really see boots on the ground live streams. And I would notice maybe about a month in with all these little media guys doing the live streams and getting such viewership, right? Thousands and thousands and thousands of views and comments. Next thing you know, Q13, Como, Cairo, they're out here doing live streams. They're following the marches just like we were in the same format. So I think in many ways we kind of paved the way.
Yeah, well, definitely. Like, I would say people being on the ground, the live stream impacted media here in Seattle in so many different ways. Um, but also it going through it with the people who were going through it built all kinds of bond. There's so many protesters and different groups of people I might not necessarily agree with ideologically, but you know what? We still talk. We still because we all went through it together. We were all in the gas together. We were all, hit with these projectiles together and everything else. And I think that that's as well where the smaller media, and we see that here this week where you're getting people early on, Monday, TK, not talking to anybody else. Dan Gregory yesterday. I don't know if you saw that interview,
I saw it, yep.
which was very powerful, and some everything else. What are some of the takeaways when we look back here 1 year and we'll continue to look forward, but what are some of the takeaways you think from the 2020 protests?
Yeah, definitely. I joked and said maybe this is just what community looks like, or maybe it's trauma bonding. It's probably trauma bonding, or a little bit of both. One of the takeaways for me is that sustained protests are effective, right? Boots on the ground. The live streams, you're able to galvanize thousands of people at once, with the viewers at home to email their council members, to call into city council meetings, to write emails to the governor, you name it. We've had just unprecedented amount of civic engagement, I think, over this last year, flooding people's inboxes, signing petitions, etc., in a way that really we haven't been able to do before. So that digital organizing has been super powerful. I mean, so much so we got the youth jail is going to close down by 2025. The Northwest Immigrant Detention Center is going to be shut down by the same year. Obviously, people want that to be moved up sooner, and I agree with that. But it wouldn't have happened without the sustained protests, right? People in the streets every single day, led by people like TK, Everyday Marchers, the Black Action Coalition. Just there is so much learning after this last year that I think we take for granted. I think as activists, we tend to focus on what's wrong, what's not working, what needs to be improved upon, and we forget to celebrate the little wins along the way. But if you really take a zoomed out perspective, we got 18% defund from the Seattle Police. We knew 50 wasn't going to happen. That's why you aim high, shoot for the moon, you land among the stars. None of this would have happened without the sustained protest every single night. And if even one Black life is saved from being able to hold our police officers accountable, I would say that it was worth it.
Right.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, real quick. Now you live on Capitol Hill.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, what's it like looking back now, like as a resident of what happened, especially in between the months of June, July, early August?
Well, the people that participate in all of this, they're still here. They're still around us, right? They still live in this community. And I think that's one of the beautiful reminders is that when I walk around, especially if I wear this jacket, I'll usually get, which I don't do very often these days, but if I do, someone will usually come up to me and they'll be, oh my gosh, I recognize you from the protest. I was there. And then they'll have some kind of story to share with me about what they went through. These people still work at the coffee shop. They still work at the record store. They're still here. We just need that call to action. And unfortunately, in this country, police officers kill about 1,100 people a year. We're about 500 so far in 2021. And I think the conviction rate's around maybe 11 officers in a year. So we're going to have more work to do. We just got to wait for that, that galvanizing moment. But yeah, I look back at this year and I think it was a beautiful thing that happened, but it's a distant memory. And yet it's like the most hazy, but yet visceral thing I've ever gone through. So it's a weird conundrum, but I'm glad it happened.
Well, you kind of touched on this a bit, but I really want to go back to something in terms of what got you out here in the first place, right? I mean, you're talking about, activism, allyship, what that looks like, but there had to be a moment for you where it was like, I don't care. I'm out there and I'm going to be out there every day. I'm going to be giving my energy to this. What was that thought for you in that process? Walk us through that a little bit.
Well, we all saw the video of George Floyd, right? I mean, when he called up for his mom, people at home were crying. I certainly was crying. And not knowing what to do about it was probably the most frustrating part. But then you go to the events that happened downtown on that Saturday, May 30th, and then the following day walking up here, and it's like, man, we got to do something.
Yeah.
And I think people, came to the streets for George Floyd, but we stayed because of the Seattle Police Department.
Yeah.
And that was really the driver and the motivating factor. And the live stream happened by accident. I mean, I'd never done that before. But then having all these people buying in and asking, well, can you please go back out there? What's happening? I felt like it was my civic duty to be back out there and, try to see what I can bring and to the movement. And everybody has a superpower. And if mine is just pulling out my phone and keeping the camera steady while getting hit with glass balls, and, so be it. That's my cross to bear. But a lot of people have gone through worse. So I'm just doing my part.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember we met right there on the Western Barricade, and I had 3-4% in my phone, and you had that's how it was. He didn't know anybody. Who's got a power bank? This and that. He was like, "Yo, I got a power bank." Charge. We like most people were unprepared.
Right.
We had no idea how ugly it was going to get. Before we let you go, and we want to make some acknowledgments tomorrow, but before we let you go, I see there that you have the button on your jacket, Summer Taylor. I'll let you say her name.
Summer Taylor. Summer Taylor was killed on the highway. Omar, you remember you were actually on the highway that night. I got there shortly after, so thankfully I spared myself the traumatic visuals, but we've all seen that video, and it's just heartbreaking. And I wear the button just to commemorate and remind myself what we went through as a community. It's important not to forget.
Yeah. Summer season.
All year.
Joey Weiser, thank you for joining us on the Morning Update Show and for going into the storage and pulling out the vintage jacket and everything.
Thanks so much, Joey.
Thank you guys for having me.
We're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, there's a rock star in the building by the name of Marshall Hugh, part of the Marshall Law Band. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
Hey, it's Jake from Converge Media and Get the F Outside. I hope that all of you are taking advantage of the ability to be outdoors and enjoy nature as our summer months heat up. One other thing that you can take advantage of here in the King County area are free COVID-19 vaccinations. There's all kinds of options for pop-up clinics, and the vaccine is able to be administered to anyone 12 years and older. And did I mention that it's free? You don't need insurance, and they don't care what your citizenship status is. And that kind of sounds like the way things should be anyhow, but we'll save that for another conversation. Information and resources are available at kingcounty.gov/COVID, or you can call the COVID-19 call center at 206-477-3977. Washington, we are almost out of this, but we got to stay locked in for the home stretch. Let's get vaxxed out so we can max out our time with friends, family, and in the great outdoors.
Outside. The story of Converge Media did not start at the Seattle protests or at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, nor 4 years ago when we very first opened our doors. The true story of Converge Media is firmly rooted in the legacy of Black media heroes of yesterday, whose shoulders that we stand upon today. Converge Media is firmly rooted in the pioneering spirit of Horace Caton Sr., who over 125 years ago launched the Seattle Republican newspaper alongside his wife, Susie Revels Caton, a trailblazer in her own right, serving as the associate editor, a groundbreaking feat for a woman, and especially a Black woman at that time. We are rooted in the visionary eye of Al Smith, who documented Black beauty, culture, vibrance, and excellence through his lens. We are rooted in the benevolence of Fitzgerald Beaver, who envisioned the Facts newspaper, the very same newspaper where my father, James Salisbury Jr., was a staff photographer over 4 decades ago. We are rooted in the broad and innovative shoulders of Chris Bennett, who with his Z-Twins radio took the story of Black excellence to the airwaves. We are rooted in the fearlessness of Roberta Bird Barr, who 56 years ago broke ground and shattered stereotypes as she hosted the TV show Face to Face that tackled issues of race and equity head on. We are rooted in the rhythms of Gordon Curvey, whose music Inner City brought our culture and vibes to TV screens across the Emerald City. Converge Media is also inspired by our contemporary icons. We are inspired by the commitment to storytelling from Tony B and Rainier Avenue Radio, and inspired by the passion and dedication of Marcus Harrison Green of the South Seattle Emerald. So you see, when you look at Converge Media today, and especially as we celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the Morning Update Show, just know that our story did not begin with us, nor will it end with us, as it is our duty at Converge Media to broaden our shoulders for the next generation of Black media innovators to stand firmly upon them and to tell the stories of our community to generations yet to come. Share the stream.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. My name is Omari Salisbury, and right now we want to welcome to the set Marshall Hugh of the Marshall Law Band.
What's going on? What's going on? How y'all
What's
doing?
up, Marshall? In the building.
Yo, it feels good to be in the flesh with y'all and getting a chance to interact. It's my first time actually getting a chance to meet you. So thank you so much for just supporting us and giving us an opportunity.
Absolutely.
All right, so we want to talk to you about a few things. Is one, of course, the protest itself. 2, a night that's been coined maybe by you and other people. It's kind of a different names by different people, but basically the Battle of the Hill, right? Yeah. And that was the night of June 7th. And then we definitely want to talk about takeaways, and then what you're doing now, what's happening with your music. The music is pumping, concerts are going on, and everything else. But first of all, man, how's it feel? I know you've been in the area before, but as we look back this week, how's it feel to be right here, right by the Western Barricade?
It's a definite mix of emotions. You feel excited, especially to see some of these friends. Joey Weiser, someone I actually went to middle school with Joey. So to see him out here and in the same seat as me right before this is like, wow, this is family. This is community out here. So that's the exciting part. I guess kind of the trauma starts setting in and you start remembering maybe some of the less fond memories that come around, or when you hear a siren, you kind of jump a bit. So definitely kind of a head on a swivel situation, but it's still fun, exhilarating, I guess would be the word.
Right. What brought you? Triana asked Joey in the last segment, what was the catalyst? What brought you out here?
You, Omari. I was sitting in my bed after going to the protest, I think 2 days, and I kind of took 2 days off, and I was sitting in my bed watching your personal Facebook live stream, 8,000 people on it, and you were screaming after getting tear gas, where's the leadership? Where's the leadership? And honestly, I was sitting in my bed, and it felt like, I didn't know you at the time, it felt like a direct call out. And that next day I called the hospitality, I called the band, and I said, I don't know exactly what it's going to do, but we are going out there to be leaders through music and through our community, and we're bringing the stage. Let's go perform.
Wow.
Right. If I can, one second here, Trey, we have a clip. Let me set this up. So, it's funny. It's a true story though, right? And this is one thing that I'll say. So I'm gonna keep it real with everybody, and we're gonna play the video because artists, and especially recording artists, they like to embellish and like to be whatever, but it really is a true story. June 7th, they call it the Battle of the Hill, and it was funky too because, and you'll hear this audio. This was like the first time they set a specific warning because they couldn't use tear gas. And they said that they were going to use less than lethals, which might be very painful or have. I remember hearing, that's part of what made that night so creepy. But let's go ahead and play the first clip right here. This is the order to disperse right there from right behind us at 11th and Pine. And what we saw that night for the first time is that people, they were like, nah, we're not leaving.
Issuing a public safety order to disperse. And I command all those assembled at 11 and Pine to immediately disperse, which means leave this area. If you do not do so, you may be arrested or subject to other police action. Other police action could include the use of chemical agents or less lethal munitions, which may inflict significant pain or result in serious injury. 11 and Pine to immediately disperse, which means leave this area. If you do not do so, you may be arrested or subject to other police action. Other police action could include the use of chemical agents or less lethal munitions, which may inflict significant pain or result in serious injury. If you remain in the area just described, regardless of your purpose, you will be in violation of city and state law. The following routes of dispersal are available: westbound on Pine or southbound on 11.
Man, you don't realize how many flashbangs were deployed, and just hearing it and not seeing it. We don't have a monitor in front of us, but the point is of that clip is on June 7th. It's like the tone had changed in a sense that, like I said, the police would put out the flashbangs. People would scatter. They get all the way down here to like Nagel or 10th or something like that. But that night, it was like people didn't really move, and when they did move, it was like people were building barricades. Everything else was like, man, we're not leaving. And so in the midst of all of this, and I'll set the scene, right behind me right here on 11th and Pine was the police backed up by the National Guard, and then there was SWAT and a Bearcat and had the less than lethal launchers that was out there, and we was getting hammered. I mean, it was the rubber bullets were coming down the street. People was getting hit. We got hit up. These guys were out there jumping in. And crazy enough, I mean, this is just how it was. People were standing in front of me taking the rubber bullet. So we got to keep the stream up, cut the stream up. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how it was. But that's here on 11th and Pine. And on 11th and Pike, let me show you what was going on.
They're building another barricade. They're building another barricade out there. Looks like. And this is just surreal because the band is playing and martial law is over there jamming. Like there's a crowd. At the same time, on one end of the block, there's rubber bullets and flashbangs. On the other end of the block, watch out, Eric. On the other end of the block, there's martial law and the martial law band. That's one end of the block. The other end of the block, there's the National Guard, rubber bullets, pepper spray. This is one city block, guys. One city block. One city block. There's martial law.
So this is one of these cases. So if martial law ever tells you, hey, it was going down and the band played on, the Seattle protest house band, the martial law band definitely played on in the midst of it. We got the tapes to prove it. But talk about that night, man.
It's surreal, insane. When you say the Bearcat, that's literally what we looked up, and there was a tank and National Guard and the police barreling down, and then there were protesters that sat around our stage to ensure that we felt safe. They just sat down, and then you'd look over in the horizon and you would see this line of burning dumpsters and other people holding the line, and it just incrementally chipping away, and people running back saying, Marshall, they're not going to stop. And I just kept telling them, we're not going to stop either. And around 2 a.m. or something, we just saw the Bearcat turn around and leave, and we outlasted the National Guard and the police that night with that determination that you were talking about. Like, whatever happens, we're not going anywhere.
Right, now I'll throw this over here to Trey. And another reason why people refer to it as the Fight for the Hill or the Battle of the Hill is the next day the Seattle Police Department abandoned their precinct. So this was the last night before they abandoned the precinct.
Yeah, I mean, this is, again, when we talk about the details, breaking it down again to the details, you guys, you felt a call and you came out and you showed up. And that to me is what I think is at the center of so many people being here. Before it was like this whole thing, we know that there was some energy shifts. How did y'all deal with that? Because, there was a lot of people in the beginning that came with these pure intentions, right? And they were like, no, we're out here about George Floyd. Now we're out here for Seattle PD. Like, we're going to hold them accountable. And then we saw like this whole thing of like, ooh, it must be cool to be down here in the chop. How did you guys deal with the changing of the energies in the environment?
It was really hard and it was painful a lot of the times because especially myself, I was really looking for like leadership or like a clear, like, hey, Marshall, do this. And I think that whole experience, and if you're going to ask me later what I learned, is that you can't wait for someone to tell you what to do. If you are a leader, you need to step up and make a decision if nobody else is. So I myself wasn't as well versed in Seattle protest history as I wish I would have been at the time. I didn't really understand a Occupy Wall Street type situation, even being a realm of possibilities. So when I was just playing show after show after show. I'd go home, go to sleep. You heard Amari's voice. Mine was about the same. So I would just be sleeping as much as I could on the band's couch. We'd wake up and pack up all this gear and go directly down. So woke up. It was about 3 p.m. and I was getting ready to go down. And my sax player Marty called me and said the police abandoned the precinct. And that just seemed like the most absurd, asinine thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
And then so when we came down, they're like, "Oh, so are we gonna play?" And then there was like the Proud Boy scare and whatnot. And so I was even in some sense more threatening because now there's no police or entities to protect you. And so we said, yeah, we're playing, we're not going anywhere. And then that's really where the energy and the tone shift, because it went from this fight to this, okay, now we're protecting ourselves from imminent danger of white supremacists, and we're not going to be protected by the police. In fact, they're sending information on their Twitter and whatnot. So we had to step up and make a decision, and they tried to move us out of that intersection over there so we could be a little closer. And my father, if anyone knows Papa Randy, I asked him, like, hey, they want us to move. They said there might be like assault rifle. He said, he said, what the hell you come out here for? And he said, get up, he said, get up there on that stage next play. And that's the same thing he said when Dan Gregory got shot, because he knew that this was a time where leadership was needed and to set an example. So we set that example. Look, we're not scared of Proud Boys. We're not scared of the police. We set that example 2 days in a row. From there, that's when like 3 or 4 days worth of this amazing art boom to me was so like powerful and impactful and special, and seeing Black commerce. And we performed one of those days, and then as it grew and other leaders, and we were looking for other people to make decisions, and my voice was like cramping up, I wanted to open up space for other performers and other energies. And when we made that decision, and other leaders made that decision, and people got pushed out, this and that, it created a vacuum. And we performed one other time while that vacuum existed. And from there, we just realized, like, we can't sustain being out there with our energy. We need to go bottle this up and make a record.
Yeah.
And that's when we made 12th and Pine. But it was really difficult to see that.
Yeah.
Right. And now speaking of 12th and Pine, you got, a record out, these shows are going and everything else. What's going on with the music now? Here you are a year later from the Western Barricade. Tell us what's going on with that. And I think we got time for one more question, because I know Trey wants to know what you're doing in community.
Absolutely. Like, for me, the biggest thing was I poured everything, me, my band, our friends. Like, I saw my bandmates jump off the stage and hold line on police, so I seen that they really believed in this, or believed in me enough to follow me and put their lives in danger. So that really resulted in just pouring everything I had out, but not refilling my cup, So I was exhausted. I wasn't sleeping well. I was probably drinking too much, smoking too much, using other things to cope. And I was not athletic. I wasn't working out like I usually did. And I had to hit like a rock bottom. And I went and just kind of went into my own zone for about a month. I changed my eating habits. I went vegan, and I just recharged myself so that now I have the energy to expend that type of energy. And so that's what we've been focusing on, is getting the music out. We built this parade float with the Fremont Art Council that we call the SS Jelly Bean. And so we've been riding all around Seattle and allowing other artists to be on stage with us, and just getting the word out about not only 12th and Pine, not only about the experience we had here, but what's next and what we're trying to do, which is use music to bridge these gaps and create conversations and safe spaces where we can see Black and brown commerce come in maybe neighborhoods that weren't always welcome to it.
One of the things that I really love, just listening to some of the music on 12th and Pine, great album, by the way,
Thank you.
is that clearly your experience of the chop and everything else being here in the protest movement is so infused in the lyrics, right? And so appreciate you for being, really open, kind of cracking that nut a little bit and pouring yourself out into the music. But, as you grow, as you build, as you, get more and more recognition, maybe even more and more fame, right? How are you staying plugged into community, and how are you allowing that message of why you originally came out here to still permeate in your actions today and stay connected?
I think the biggest thing is I have declared myself as a leader. I have shown with my actions multiple times that I am a leader. And with that comes expectations of transparency and accountability and being challenged and publicly scrutinized. So these are things that I signed up for the minute I accepted Amari's personal challenge of the leadership.
Yeah.
So that being said, what I'm trying to do is grow each and every day and be open to learning and being corrected by people that also live the work and the actions day to day. So what I'm trying to do is again create these community pop-ups all around town. So every other Thursday in South Lake Union, we pull up the Jelly Bean right there, big boss man captain drives it up, and then we invite black and brown vendors, speakers, performers to come and take over the South Lake Union block and to say, no, we're not going to change or dull who we are. We're going to bring a little bit of this 12th and Pine directly to you for the next 4 hours, and you can empower us with your dollar. And then, on Fridays, every single Friday at the LTD parking lot, same thing. Boss man pulls up the Jelly Bean. We have a whole parking lot, 400 different people right there in Fremont. We bring that right to the people. And now we've created this safe space. Now, about this safe space, which is really important that I want to say, and it's hard because I have to practice it myself. I personally believe in my vision for this safe space is to create a place where anyone in the community is welcome, like church, like a Key Arena musical event.
Yeah.
Anyone, even if someone who's talking bad about me on the internet, if they show up to one of these events in these spaces, they are welcome. And we're going to practice diffuse technology, communication, and we're going to practice love, and we're going to lead by example that our enemies are welcome in our spaces because we are going to prove them to be on the wrong side of history. So that's the challenge to me, to walk in love and to turn the other cheek when people have negative things to say about me or our community and what we're trying to build. But we're building community where black and brown people can come and be empowered economically and through exposure that we're accumulated through our experience here. And on our own dollar, we built the Jelly Bean ourselves. Black innovation. When Venue said, oh, what are you going to do? You can't perform without a venue. We built one. And we allowed other black people to go on top of it, other brown people to scream and say Black Lives Matter on top of it. So that's what I'm doing for community right now. But I accept the challenge of I can do more because I'm pushing the energy into myself so I can pour it out to others. So I'm really passionate about this. And I spent the whole year preparing for this moment. And I want all the smoke.
Yeah.
Every single piece of it.
Well, let me say this, man. Kudos to you. I mean, we hear the people out here, clapping it up. And honestly, that's what it takes. Just like I told Joey in the segment beforehand, that when you bring yourself into the solution, you're creating the table, you're creating the solution. People are inspired by that, bro. I mean, straight up, I live it every single day, everywhere I go, super authentically me. And I think that's really what it takes. So kudos to you and your team for pulling that together. I just got to say that, man.
Thank you. It means the world coming from y'all, man.
Good stuff, Marshall. And yeah, this is good because we're going to tell people to support your music, which also means we got to stay on top of your community efforts.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I expect y'all to. I expect y'all to, please.
Yeah, I mean, people be thinking we just stay on top of City Hall. Like, you're now you're a nationally, internationally known recording artist. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're talking about your experiences here on the Hill. You're out there. You're up for all of these awards. You're representing us. So, but it's good, man. Keep these things moving forward. Absolutely. Real quick, once you look at that camera straight there, tell people how they can keep up with the Martial Law Band.
You can tap in with the Martial Law Band at Martial Law Band on all social media platforms. You can tap in with our Pulitzer efforts at martiallawband.info or .love. And you can just see us around town. We'll see you every Friday at Fremont Friday. Yeah, .love. A little different. You got to throw some sauce on it. And actually, before I forget, Thursday, that's tomorrow, right here, we're having Forever Safe Spaces. The Jelly Bean will be there, and we have over 20 artists performing. Vermilion, right across the street from Vermilion and Throwback. So please come out tomorrow. Julie C., Kaya, Nas, they're all creating amazing spaces for us to feel safe and performing.
See, I don't even, they're supposed to be on the show tomorrow. I don't even need to bring them anymore. You gave them a shout out.
Please bring them and let them say what they have to say.
All right, Martial Law, man, appreciate it. We're running a little long today because we had a little bit of a late start, but we're going to take a break right now. And when we come back, Can You Hear Us? That's the documentary put out by David Obelts and Malcontent News. We're going to get into it. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
Hey, it's Jake from Converge Media and Get the F Outside. I hope that all of you are taking advantage of the ability to be outdoors and enjoy nature as our summer months heat up. One other thing that you can take advantage of here in the King County area are free COVID-19 vaccinations. There's all kinds of options for pop-up clinics, and the vaccine is able to be administered to anyone 12 years and older. And did I mention that it's free? You don't need insurance, and they don't care what your citizenship status is. And that kind of sounds like the way things should be anyhow, but we'll save that for another conversation. Information and resources are available at kingcounty.gov/COVID, or you can call the COVID-19 call center at 206-477-3977. Washington, we are almost out of this, but we got to stay locked in for the home stretch. Let's get vaxxed out so we can max out our time with friends, family, and in the great outdoors.
Outside.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update show. And we're in overtime, but it's all good because the weather is great right here. Broadcasting live from Cal Anderson Park on Capitol Hill. Right behind us, 11th and Pine, the infamous Western Barricade. We're joined right now by David Obelt, the publisher of Malcontent News. How are you?
Hey, Omari, how you doing?
And actually, I should say actually welcome back. You've been on the Morning Update show a few times now, but first time like this.
Yeah, first time like this. And first time up on the Hill, probably in about 8 weeks. This weather today is June 6th, carbon copy of June 6th.
Yeah. I'm so glad you're here with us, David. You've been doing tremendous work.
Thank you so much, Trey. And that means a lot coming from both of you. It really, really does. And I just want everyone to know that wasn't me with the mute button at the start of the show.
Hey, but you do a lot of live stuff too. You know what? You just gotta work through it.
Yeah, exactly. You just work through it is exactly right.
You just gotta work through it. It's not past us for us to just pop up our iPhones and we keep, the show must go on.
Absolutely.
So wanted to bring you here today to talk about two things. One, of course, you were somebody who literally documented the protest. We'll talk about this documentary here. But then also, some of the takeaways and things that you found. But let's get into the documentary first. I'll let you set this up, and then Curtis will play the clip.
Yeah, so I didn't start on May 30th going, hey, I'm going to create a documentary. Started on May 30th as somebody who has a Black daughter-in-law who's going to have Black grandchildren. Saw the George Floyd video. My wife, and people know her, she's our politics are similar, but she's not a big protest person. I was really stunned. She's like, I want to go down too. And so, we went down there on May 30, and, everything went sideways there. And we saw what happened and how this peaceful protest was co-opted by several people. And this just grew. And we waited until the day that George Floyd's death, the news of it broke, May 26th, to release. And with that, I think we can just roll into it. I think the 3 minutes speaks for itself.
He can be heard on the video saying, "I can't breathe."
It is so hard to watch this. It goes for about 10 minutes.
You ain't doing nothing now. Put him in the car. Don't kill me.
We're not going without. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
Tear gas down the hill.
There is huge group of people running. All right, those are flashbang grenades. SPD is actively pushing the people into the line of fire.
The response seemed too quick to escalate, and too quick to deploy flashbangs, pepper spray. And
we're not going to evacuate or abandon the East Precinct.
They put in some water-filled barriers that have basically all already been moved.
Seattle police abandoned the East Precinct, and for about an hour, no one knew what to expect.
That's the reason you will not catch me saying abolish police or defunding 100%. Not because I don't believe in it, but because I know what it will take to win it. Winning 50% defund is going to be goddamn hard.
And SPD is gone. And I stood here on Monday contemplating what did this strip of road up here symbolize.
I'm not a leader. I'm just a black person that's tired of going through shit. I don't want to be the leader. I don't want to be none of that.
George Floyd! Say his name! George Floyd! Say his name! George Floyd!
I know you're tired, but the time is today. The time is right now.
It's up to the citizens of the city of Seattle to hold the politicians accountable. So if there's no accountability, I don't think there'll be change.
On I-5, people were hit on the freeway?
Jenny Durkin! Can you hear us? Jay Inslee!
Can you hear us?
When I say power to the people, you say all power to the people. Power to the people!
Wow, David, honestly, just, as O said earlier, we don't have the monitors. I couldn't see it, but just hearing it, clearly there was a lot put into this. Tell us a little bit about that process. What made you choose certain clips, and probably in the order that you did?
So it showed chronologically because I think it was important to tell the story chronologically and trying to show a balanced story, right? There's so much misinformation that came out of everything that happened. Part of what's in the documentary is doing a walkthrough on July 3rd and, trying to dispel this myth of, oh, Seattle's burnt down, Seattle's destroyed. And it's like, it's July 3rd. It's like the graffiti's even gone. It's, for the most part, you wouldn't know anything was even here 48 hours ago. That's where that clip is, on the freeway, that little end clip there. So it was what tells the story, what shows visually and audibly what's going on, with providing minimal narration.
Yeah.
So it's not my voice in there, but the voices of others. There's about 230 hours of video that we went through. So that's 230 hours of review.
Wow.
So about and then about 1,000 still pictures that we went through. That were taken, because there were a number of still pictures that were taken through that whole period. And then editing was we're probably in over 200 or 250 hours now. Now, we're working on a director's cut, because what happened, which is what I hoped was happen, is people are coming forward and going, hey, I've got this video, I've got that video. And so we're working on kind of a V2, but that trailer, because that's got LUTs and, it's so much more than what's in there. That trailer was like 10 or 12 hours.
Wow.
Man, I'm sorry. Yeah, I told David, I said, man, you gotta put a trailer together, put it on the show. I said no more than 3 minutes. He gave it 2:59. So a few things real quick. You can tell people where they can see the video.
Yeah, it's on our YouTube channel. And actually, if you go on YouTube and you just do a search.
Oh, and actually, we got he put it in the comments.
Links in the comments. There I go. Links in the comments. But if you go on YouTube and you do a search for "Can You Hear Us," we're the number 2 thing right now up there.
Right on.
This is good stuff. So I think we both kind of have a similar story in the sense that like malcontent news existed before the Seattle protests. For years, you've been out here doing your thing, and also production here in Seattle, but also internationally. You shot documentaries all around the world, as well as Converge. People was like, "Oh, these guys, they just showed up." The protest. I think that what happened at the Seattle protest is that smaller media outlets like Converge and Malcontent News, that sure the broader audience here in Seattle wasn't aware of, but we were able to do something as on the ground, as almost in an intimate sense. All these people, like I know you got tons of interviews, so many people that we talked to that you know we're able to give a perspective that other people can't. And something Joey hit on earlier is that you saw that a month or so into it, then the bigger media changed their tactics to try to be on the ground like we were.
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't very effective. Wasn't a very effective change in tactics for them for a number of reasons. That's a separate conversation for a different day. We started in 2016, and actually it started as a weather blog. That's actually the roots for all of this. I've always been a weather nerd. I wanted to be a meteorologist until I was 17 years old. Then I found out I have to take all this theoretical math, and it was work for the government, getting paid $30,000 a year. And I was like, all this sounds really super unappealing. So I went to business school instead. But I've always been fascinated with the weather, and I grew this reputation locally on the east side of being just laser accurate on forecasts. And you start at page. Then we started covering topical and news because we got in the era of Trump. And so we started, because weather here's boring, 335 days out of the year, and 30 days there's something interesting going on. So we started covering other stuff, and then COVID. And that's actually where things really blew up. I actually wrote something on my personal page on March 12 because Kirkland was ground zero for COVID. And it was called My Letter to America. And it was just, this is what's going on here in Puget Sounds. And y'all are 7 to 10 days behind us. And you need to start getting ready. And that just exploded. Like, it was on Reddit, and it got rewritten by people who made it their own and all. And we actually did a thing at the end of the year. We did a retrospective on how much that was sadly right on that. And May 30th was galvanized. But the big thing, it's back up over around the corner here, back on June 6th. Everything that happened on June 6th. But I was up there filming, and all of a sudden, for no reason, these 12 riot cops, shields and everything, just come walking over to me, and they're like pointing. And I'm like, I've literally been standing here all day. I've never left this spot. Now, all of a sudden, it's a problem for no reason. And in doing the documentary, something I always missed, the National Guard's foreman. I'm like, a gray-haired white Jewish guy, and you guys are freaking out over me on my camera now for no reason? What the heck? And that's when my eyes were just really opened up to it's not broken. I always say it's not broken. The system works perfectly as designed, which is why the system needs to be eradicated and rebuilt into something else.
Come on, David. There you go. You're talking my language. I just have one question. My question, because you were known as the poll guy for so long. I gotta ask you, why the poll? Why the poll cam?
Yeah, so Eric Greatwood has to get credit for the poll. Of course, we didn't have poll during CHOP era, didn't have that through July. Eric Greatwood was getting these amazing shots out of Portland, and I remember. And it's funny, I had the same reaction that I see in the comments. We had poll. How tall is this dude? Is he on a step ladder? Like, what is he doing? And one night when things were a little quieter, Eric deconstructed his poll. Like, he explained everything on how it was set up. And as he was explaining it, because we do video production, I was like, well, I have that, and I have that, and I have that. It's just a painter's pole. I got a painter's pole in my garage. I don't even have to go and find a painter's pole. So all I needed was like 2 parts that were like $15 or $20. And I just got on Amazon. I was like, oh, there's that and there's that. And then PoleCam was born. But credit goes to Eric Greatwood in Portland. The reason we did it first, we just get these great high-level shots, which in a larger protest provides the sweeping view. But the other thing, Trey, is it helps when you're at the back. You're not showing faces up close. It's hard to find, discernible features in people, and you have a wide view of what the police are doing.
And let me also throw this out there too, because there's different tools for different types of protests. The types of protests that David was covering is people were like, they didn't want their faces or whatever. We go to protests in the black community out here in South Seattle. People come to the camera.
Good
point.
point.
And people make their face. Yeah, this is a very clear point. When you come to the black community out there, South Jackson, Othello, we just want to live, all those things. People actually come to the protest. They want to be seen and heard. So there's different tools for different types of protests.
It's a really good point. And if we go back to this era, especially the post-CHOP era, right? You had Morning March, and Morning March started with yoga in the morning, and then they would march and chant. They would pick up trash. They would plant flowers, but they would also, have discussions and politely confront people about systemic racism. You had Everyday March. Everyday March went to people's houses. Omari, I know you weren't a big fan of that tactic, but they would go to counselors. I went to Mike Solon's house.
Yeah.
Hi, Mike. I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike still definitely has a beef with me. And I've said this for months, and I'll say it again. We never wanted to know when they were marching where they were marching to. And sometimes we'd have there's no leaders, but sometimes we'd have people saying, organizer, hey, we're going to be, I'm like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. So we never knew where we were going until we got there. Then you had ENDD, right? You had this third group, and I believe there was Black Indigenous Coalition. That's the one group that's still around, but as Black Action Coalition today.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, we're gonna have another. We got a whole month to talk about this. We're gonna get you in studio because the thing is unfortunately in the city with the highest literacy rate in America and the highest library card, whatever in America, people are lazy here in their media consumption, and so it's important when we talk about the Seattle protest. People think that it was just one type of people and everything else, and I'm just like downtown on May 30th. When the cars were on fire and everything else, the black people who came down there was in Westlake Park and would not be moved. And they came in peace and they left in peace. But somehow, because people are so lazy when they talk about the protests, it's like, oh, the protesters, this and that and everything else. And again, tens of thousands of black people protest. There's actually no police. When the black people protest out there in the South, these Africatown took over a whole block.
Yeah.
On Monday, a whole block. There's no police. No, they took a whole block. Cold Metro. It was like, yeah, man, you're gonna have to reroute your buses. Metro had to put the diesel buses. They took over a whole block in protest. There was no police presence, but they protested. And I think that people here need to really, if they want to understand the Seattle protest, look at things in totality and really understand that there's different groups out here doing different things. But these people who look like me and who live the life of Black lives and everything else, they're more than happy to have their face on camera. They're more than happy to talk. They're more than happy to let you know who they are. They're more than happy to get out there. Ain't no, you know what I'm saying? There is no fear. We already live in it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's absolutely
don't let
right.
me get on a rant over here, bro.
No.
Good point.
No, you're
But
right.
You know what?
You're right. Absolutely.
You know what? To your point, Omari, on June 19th last year, they asked that only BIPOC videographers and streamers were up here in CHOP. And so we respected that. And we went down Rainier Beach. There was a big march down there. And then over at Jimi Hendrix Park, there was amazing things over there. The only police that I ever saw is because Matthew showed up and was trying to storm the stage, like when Jenny Durkin was talking up there. And that's the
At
only
Judkins,
that's the
Judkins
only
Park,
at Judkins. And that's the only reason SPD came was to drag him away.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands of black people and people of color assembled. So it's a misnomer here when people are like, oh man, the protest and it's the police and it's destruction. That's them people. You know what I'm saying? That's them people. And people in Seattle need to be smart enough to realize that. And if it wasn't for people like Malcontent and Converge, a lot of the stuff the black community was doing didn't make the news. Just like the Black Wall Street, that tweet I put as viral, 20,000, everybody's reading it because people like, word, that's what they're doing in the black community.
This is what I gotta say, because as an organizer of so many of these events, we work really hard to ensure that the message is clear when we're talking about this fight for Black lives. It's not connected to this national Black Lives Matter movement. That's not what it's about. It's
Right.
because we are Black people. We know our lives matter. At the end of the day, we have to step up. We have to showcase that leadership, and we have to be able to be open to educating our community. Tons of events happened last summer that were about teaching people, educating people, because so many people are miseducated. As Omari's stating here, there were so many people that are taking in media in a lazy way. But when you actually find a way to educate yourself, and again, to see yourself as a part of the solution, you start changing the narrative. You start changing the trajectory of our country by starting with our city, by starting with our county, by holding people accountable. That's what this has been about. And so much more of the events that we're doing this summer are going to mimic that exact same thing, because it has to stop. It has to continue. We're not stopping, just like
And I'm
Marshall
gonna tell
said
you
earlier.
like this, man, as Black people here who, parents come from out the civil rights movement and everything else, yeah, I mean, that's fine. That's these guys' style. That's how they get down. Whatever, do your thing. But I'm gonna tell you how we get down over on Jackson, on Union, on Cherry, on Othello, MLK. Our parents, our grandparents, everybody, because John Lewis ain't wearing no mask. Dr. King, Malcolm X, no, you know what I'm saying? This is who we are. And there's so much privilege. Let me tell you, there's so much privilege to being able to hide your identity, go into some bushes, change your clothes, and then the police don't know who you're looking for. We can't take this blackness off.
Yeah.
We can't take it off.
That's it.
There is no block for this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Period. Yeah.
So listen, bro, we gonna have a whole conversation, but real quick, and I'm sorry because I've taken a lot of your time here.
No, but what you had to say needs to be said. It's important, and something I want to inject in there. King County, Seattle likes. I've said this many times on our show. King County, Seattle likes to think how woke it is, how liberal it is, right? And that is the illusion that's pushed by certain national news outlets that people consume. We're not woke.
Yeah.
We're not liberal. There is such you can't even call it low-key racism. It's just right under the surface. I lived in Houston for 8 years. And honestly, I felt Houston was more tolerant than we are here in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that
more
sincerely.
Straightforward.
Yeah.
Well, that's very true, right? That's a whole separate to the whole
There's a
passive
huge
aggressive
line
thing
there.
here.
Yeah, for sure.
If you had to sum it up in a few sentences, what are your takeaways from the protests from this last year? Looking back.
Wow. So, in a few sentences, one, the work's not done, nowhere near done. One of the things I do want to say that I'm very frustrated with: June 6th, 70 to 85,000 people marched from City Hall to here. That's the estimate, depending what estimate you go to. Where are those people? Yeah. Where are those people? You stood up, it's in the documentary, 70,000 people that stretched from Harborview Medical Center to City Hall, all stood with their fists in the air, chanting, "Can you hear us?" Where are you? Because the work's not done. The Seattle Police Department, we're probably at a state where this is as good as it's going to get, as the Crosscut story that was out last week. And I agree with that. And that's good enough? It's not good enough for me. It shouldn't be good enough for anybody in this city. There needs to be real reform. I was talking to you about this. We're interviewing these mayoral candidates, and this is part of the growth that we've had. And if we, like, for example, we had the arrests. We had the arrests on Saturday, right? Thousands of people watched that. Mm-hmm. We have an interview, which is important for this city with these mayoral candidates. Like 200 people, 200 people watch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And like white people, that's something you can do. Get engaged. You have to get engaged. This country is 13% black, 15% black if you include mixed race. Washington State is 4% black, and there's historical reasons for that. We talked about that before. I'm not going to rehash it again. There's never going to be change unless people whose skin is pasty like me stand up and support the black community. There's going to be no change.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, you got to give it up for stuff like that, because ultimately this is really what it's about. When we talk about this transformative time, we had so many people that wanted to be a part of the cool thing at the time. And that is part of the issue because, again, as Omari said, it doesn't stop for Black folks. We still got to deal with the conditions. We still got to deal with the solutions to elevate the material conditions of Black people. That is really not just on us. At the end of the day, when you thought it was cool to come out here, be a part of the 70,000 people, raise your fist in the air, asking folks if you can hear us, all of that right now, that energy needs to continue, whether it is that you keep on pressing on your elected officials, your state reps, your local representatives, that you keep on finding ways to be supportive of the solutions that are happening on the ground. That's exactly what we're talking about, David. I'm glad you said it, man.
And then the last thing I'm going to say, and this is for Acting Chief Diaz and for the City Council and Mayor Durkin, demoting Steve Herjak from assistant chief to captain for what happened on here on June 1st, if that had been handled somewhere in a Rick and Morty parallel universe, there is a very different looking Seattle, maybe never had a chop. And that is 100%. If Steve Herjak is the person that gave the order, that is 100% on Steve Herjak. It is not on the Black community. It is not on the white supporters that were out here. That is on the Seattle Police Department. And it's a sham that he gets to keep the same pay too. And and mark my words, when he retires, he'll be retired like honorary assistant chief.
Yeah. You know, that's we got a whole lot of time to talk about that particular, because you know there's a lot of stuff. I'll say this, and we got to end this. We're way over. We're way over time here.
It's like one of our shows today. Mute button issues and overtime.
But you know, I mean, there's lots of missed opportunities when we talk about the Seattle Police Department and community. I remember after the chop got cleared, you know what I'm saying. And we were in constant communication with the Seattle Police Department at the time, Chief Best, and a lot of the people who are legitimate leaders out here. And I was trying to get in, because in other cities in America, with no expectation of resolution, you had police chiefs and city leaders meeting with protest groups. And so I was in conversation with the SPD, trying to get the auditorium right over there across the street at Seattle Central. You know what I'm saying? And let's get city people and let's get you know, authentic protest leaders in the room, knowing that 1 or 2 hours later, nothing's gonna be resolved in that one meeting, but a conversation will begin. And then the last minute, Chief Best pulled out. You know what I'm saying? And to this day, there is no conversation really happening, you know what I'm saying, between city government and a lot of these protests. There was a perfect window of time because people who were on the ground were open for that. They protested here, chopper got cleared. This was the next logical step, is to start communication between these people on the ground and the people at City Hall, and they pulled out. And that's why even right now, a year later, you tell me where any authentic lines of communication are right now between people who are authentic protest leaders or activists and the mayor's office, the city council, or the police. And so, you know, I mean, we're going to have a whole show about missed opportunities. Don't worry about that. Need you to look right there. Tell people how they can follow Malcontent News.
Yeah, if you want to follow Malcontent News, you can go to malcontentnews.com. You can, our Twitch channel, if you go to malcontentnews.tv, that'll take you to our Twitch channel. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. If you do a search for, some of them are Legacy Malcontent Batango, or you can do Malcontent News, and we'll come up on any of those channels. Link, I understand, for Can You Hear Us was dropped in the comments. But if you go onto YouTube and you just do a search, Can You Hear Us? I believe we're just the second thing now that comes up.
All right. David Obelt's Malcontent News.
here.
For us, he'll always be the poll cam man.
Always.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, David. Thanks for being here.
All right. We're going to take a quick merch break, Mr. Director, merch break, and we're going to come right back and wrap it up. You're watching The Morning Up. right, welcome back, man. We're way over time today, Trey Holiday.
I know, but I mean, it was so worth it. I mean, we have a great audience here today. It's amazing, son, and all of our guests were bringing their authentic selves today, man. Shout out to all of them.
Great audience out here. You know what I'm saying? Feeling the love, everything else. Well, you know, I mean, the thing is, it's a long format type of show.
Yeah.
Because we want people to just, you know, we want to hear their thoughts. We want them to talk, and whether, you know, I agree with them or disagree, or audience agrees or disagree, people are able to say what they want to say. And, you know, I think that's a lot of what's missing. What do we got going on? So tomorrow up next. Tomorrow we've got Stephanie Johnson Tolliver from the Black Heritage Society of Washington State. We got Julie C., Carolyn Hitton Culpepper from Forever Safe Spaces. We got some people joining us from the Mayor's Task Force. I don't know who it is yet, but we'll get that info because we want to see what's up with the 30 million. We've got Sean. What's Sean's last name? Roberts. Okay, thank you. Sean Roberts from STG Presents. STG Presents is working on a history project over there, part of that Elevate project that's going on over there. Really full show tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Want to welcome our studio audience back. More than happy. Come up here to Capitol Hill and hang out with us, and you know, we'll get it going. Any last words before we get out of here, Trey Holiday?
I mean, you know what? Y'all know that for me, it's always going to be about seeing yourself as a part of the solution, as all of our guests today have done. I mean, if you guys need more and more examples, we're going to keep on showing them to you. Omari is one. I'm one. We want y'all to be invited into that club of seeing yourself as part of the solution.
Yeah, no, good stuff. Today is Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
It's all blurry here. Yeah, no programming tonight. Clapback Culture. Clapback Culture is tomorrow though.
Yeah.
7 p.m. And Julia Jesse will actually be right here in Seattle.
Yeah.
Julia lands tonight, so Julia will be here. Julia and Mike Davis tomorrow. I think that's it for us today. We'll be putting up different YouTube. I mean, some people, they want to watch through these streams. Them streams are traumatic, man. And I don't really advise it unless it's for a specific reason. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But as you know, from 1 year ago, we'll be posting those. Want to say thank you, of course, to everybody who's come up here to support. Want to say thank you to our crew. This amazing crew makes it happen out here. You know, Jake Gravbrot, Daryl Glover was here earlier, Steve Hickey, Big D Burrell, G Prez Aspie, Ike Everard, and ladies and gentlemen, let's give our live director Curtis Delgado a big hand. His first live show here with the Morning Update Show. And on that note, I want to remind you, go forward in your purpose, go forward in your humanity. And until tomorrow at 11 a.m., peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun.